Hey guys, welcome back to the Eccentrist podcast. I'm your host, Vaughn Coleman, and today I am joined by three friends of mine. Guys, why don't you introduce yourselves?
Hey, what's up? I'm Brendan Shea. Friend is a strong word.
Hi, I'm Aiden. I agree with Brendan. Friend is a very strong word.
Hey, I'm Dan Fernandez. I agree with Brendan's statement. That was a swell statement, Brendan.
Fuck you guys. All right, so today we are going to be talking about Disney Star Wars and kind of the current state of things, because we all, I know, have our own opinions on those. So we'll go through each of the four movies currently. At this point, this has been after Solo has been released. It bombed at the box office. Not a lot of people saw it, including not everyone here, which is why we won't go too in-depth on Solo, but we will talk about the other three and just general discussion. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with The Force Awakens, ask everyone if they liked it or not. We'll go one by one. So we'll start with me on The Force Awakens, episode 7. So I'm going to say I liked this movie actually a lot when it came out, when I went to see it. I thought it was a fun movie. Is it as good as the original trilogy? I mean, in my opinion, none of them are, but I liked The Force Awakens. So Brendan, what are your thoughts on The Force Awakens?
So I don't think the actual story or the film matters as much as the context surrounding it, because since the prequel trilogy was received so badly, and because it did sort of steer so many fans the wrong way, they almost had to play it safe because they had to prove that they could still capture that Star Wars magic. So they intentionally made a movie that followed every single beat of A New Hope almost to the T. So I can't really say that on its own it's a good movie, but I understand that they had to use it as a springboard to tell a new story. So I don't really think the actual quality of the film matters as long as it captured what the fans wanted, which was just remake A New Hope.
That's a pretty fair statement, I would say. I think that's a huge part of the reason. I think we can agree that's a huge part of the reason it was so successful and why so many people liked it. I know a lot of people in retrospect have had mixed feelings, but we can get into that. Aiden, what are your thoughts on The Force Awakens?
I mean, I have to agree with Brendan. My thing with Star Wars in general is that, we have all these new movies coming out now. And every time I see these movies, whenever I sit down in theaters, I'm always so excited after it ends. I'm always like, this is the best Star Wars yet. But then, you really have to look back at it because there is that, that nostalgia that everybody's looking for. And that sort of blinds your perception. And that kind of, I'll talk about this more with The Last Jedi because I feel like it impacted me more. But I did enjoy Force Awakens. It's just it brought back that sort of classic Star Wars,
Yeah. All right, now Dan. Sorry, no, unless you.
No, you're good. That was it.
Oh, that was it. All right,
yeah.
Dan. Let's hear your.
Well, I absolutely hated The Force Awakens. I hated all of the new Disney Star Wars movies. Rogue One was kind of okay, and I haven't seen Solo yet, but I've heard it's all right too. And I think listening to the fans is exactly what they did, and it was just because it was easy. Remake the old Star Wars movies, put a bunch of old nostalgic shit in there, and then grab a bunch of cash. These movies meant not a whole lot to me. I think the prequels were far better.
All right, yeah, that's part of the reason why I was actually really happy to have Dan on, is because Dan is very much not a big fan of the new movies, but it's good to hear that. And it's interesting because as soon as it came out, even people I know now who don't like it anymore, whose opinions changed, liked it when The Force Awakens came out. Dan was the first one. He saw it a little bit after us. He actually spoiled it for me, which I'll get into later.
I saw it with you, Vaughn.
He basically. You didn't? No, you didn't. I saw it with John.
Okay. What? Oh, my brother just came home.
Oh, okay.
I let him know that I'd be doing a podcast.
Okay.
Oh, all right.
Sorry. Anyway, no. So Dan, I remember, he came in, he had seen it in the weekend, but not opening day, like all of us. Or Aiden, I think you went to the midnight premiere. Right?
Yeah, I went to the midnight.
Yeah,
exactly.
all the boys except for me apparently were invited.
Well, you know what they say.
I wasn't there.
Oh, all right.
Brendan, you weren't. You could always show up. You're welcome anytime.
Oh, but I'm not. Aiden.
Yo, I appreciate that, man.
No problem, man.
Okay, and I see how it is. No, anyway, so what happened was Dan, I remember, came in the locker room. Chris, me and a couple guys, we were all talking. We were like, "Oh, the new Star Wars is so good," and Dan just goes, "Dude, that shit was fucking trash." And we were like, "Oh man!" All the guys in the locker room were like, "This is awesome," and Dan just no. So yeah, that's Dan.
I mean, all of the characters were trash. Everything was like generic. Nothing
I mean,
special about these movies at all in any way.
I want you to just continue on that track, and then we'll go back to our thoughts on The Force Awakens more in depth. So I want you to go just all out.
Put right in the spotlight right here. Well,
Yeah.
oh, geez. Oh, wow.
Wow, man, that's intense.
This is big. No, I mean, I don't know. It just didn't have that Star Wars vibe I was looking for these movies. Like, if you want to be nostalgic, there's ways to go about it, that are being good. And, there's bad ways to go about it. And this was absolutely terrible. I mean, they put the visuals in. It was definitely Star Wars when you look at it. You got lightsabers and you got like a guy in an evil mask, spaceships. You got the big old Death Star floating there the size of a planet now. But the themes just did not fit. It was so strange. It's like they tried to follow The New Hope, but they mixed a bunch of other shit in there that was weird. I don't really know how to describe this movie, other than I hate it.
All right.
All right. No, that's a fair point.
It upsets me thinking about it. Like, now I got to start remembering all the stuff that happened.
He's having Vietnam flashbacks.
Absolutely, you don't even know. Oh my God. What's her name? Naz Katata or whatever the fuck. The potato chick is just flying through my head. God damn.
Jesus Christ.
All right. I guess I'll say when I first saw it, I liked it a lot, and even now I've seen it I think 3 times at this point. And I still like it overall.
That's exactly why you shouldn't be hosting this podcast.
No, it's like everyone is like, oh, it's not as. I still think it's a good movie. I have my issues with it. I feel like Dan's just.
Oh, I'm scowling right now.
I think it's a good movie. I think it's well made.
Why am I friends with you?
I think the chemistry between Ray and Finn was good. I think there were problems with the writing, but I think like the way they interacted in the Millennium Falcon was good. I liked them as characters, and I'll get into this at The Last Jedi. I didn't really feel like they were built on too much with Last Jedi. But I don't know. I thought the way the characters interacted, they felt like real people and likable people. I think they made the new characters really likable, and I think this was a good introduction to a new series. But was it exactly what I expected all these years later after Episode 6? Because I went my entire childhood with Return of the Jedi being the last one. So when they first announced the 7, I was like, when I was little, I was like, oh, I can't wait for 7. And then as I got older, I started getting, I guess, more cynical. And then they announced 7, and I was like...
I think that's a weird way to look at it, though, because it's like you can't hold these movies up to their predecessors too much because the hype builds after so long. You got to look at them realistically. And looking at them realistically, I still have to say they're shit.
No, hold on. I think I go with Dan saying, though. I mean, like any Star Wars, I said this earlier, it's like it has that background of being Star Wars and makes the movie, it lifted up above all other movies. Like, I think I enjoyed The Force Awakens. However, that being said, it was not, I mean, some of the was just, it wasn't like great. It was just, I've seen it before in A New Hope. Why would they need a new movie for that? The thing they try to do, they have this thing, you have to balance nostalgia, but you have to balance it with something new because that's what the fans want. And it's so hard to do that. And I think that they're not really hitting on that yet.
All right. You feel like nostalgia is like they're making it almost like too, like instead of it just, I guess that's an interesting point, is instead of just making a Star Wars movie, it's like making a Star Wars movie for these people, or you know what I mean? Like adding nostalgia
it's like,
as part of the equation. Like the original is nostalgia. They were just
like I've seen episodes 4 through 6. I've seen those movies. Why do I need to see them again?
Yeah. Like I got more nostalgic watching A New Hope after like in 8th grade, I think I rewatched the original trilogy, and I got more nostalgic just from rewatching the trilogy. Like, I don't think you
absolutely
new nostalgia. But I get the point. Like, it's nostalgic seeing Harrison Ford after all these years in the Millennium Falcon with Chewie, But at the end of the day, that's not enough. So I do hold by that I like The Force Awakens, but I have my issues, for sure. I think
it was definitely better than The Last Jedi.
I'm going to say something that I think sort of covers all of the films, and that is Star Wars is quite possibly the least qualified franchise for a cinematic universe. Because if you watch the first three movies, it becomes abundantly clear that the story and the themes are very, very thin. It's a simple hero's journey about good versus evil, and in the end, good wins. After that, there isn't a whole lot to do. It has a lot of charming characters, a lot of charming moments, but it's an isolated story. It would be as if making a Star Wars franchise, cinematic universe, is as if tomorrow they said, we're making a Ferris Bueller's Day Off cinematic universe.
Okay,
It
but
doesn't make any sense
Brendan,
because the story has already been told. It's come full circle. And I think it becomes abundantly clear when all they can do in this new movie, there's been 30 years, I assume they were hit the second they bought it. I assume that Disney was hit with hundreds of scripts, just people, just so many ideas, so many elevator conversations, and what they went with. And I remember when I first heard about the plot, because like a lot of the plot details were leaked ahead of time, and I thought it was a joke, like The Onion, because the idea was that the movie is about a whole new group of people teaming up with all the good old gang and them taking on an even bigger Death Star that can, instead of destroying planets, destroy solar systems. And I remember thinking to myself, that is the dumbest idea of all time. Like, there's no way they could do something so incredibly stupid like that. And sure enough, they did that exact thing. Because the problem is, like, okay, forget about Star Wars fatigue. Death Star fatigue is now an actual. That is the third Death Star that we have had to deal with.
Even Return of the Jedi was too many Death Stars, in my opinion. And I love Return of the Jedi.
And they had to blow up the Death Star. They did the trench run again. It's the simple fact of the matter is that there isn't a lot you can do with Star Wars. It has cool set pieces, but once they're recycled, they lose all that charm. The point is that you can't make a cinematic universe out of something that was never meant to be that. It was always a smaller story than a lot of people give it credit for. It's a miracle that it worked in the first place. Let it die.
Okay, I'm gonna have to disagree with you there, Brendan. I think you absolutely can make a great cinematic universe out of Star Wars. It just
no, you can't.
It
has not been done fantastically. All right, no, it's not. The cinematic universe should never be about like the plot of the films ever. If you're expanding on the movie with the cinematic universe, you're going to have different plots, you're going to have different themes, you're going to have different motivations for different characters, and you can make some really complex stories. However, the setting that Star Wars is set in is absolutely fantastic for a cinematic universe. It's literally World War II in space.
Yeah,
that's
true. Everything is themed off of that.
Okay, but Dan, I have a question. If the whole point is to ignore everything else, the story, the characters, and just make it a war in space,
that was the point.
Why does it even have to? Okay, all right. If you just want to use the setting of a war happening in space, but you want to make it a whole new intelligent story, then why even call it Star Wars?
What do you mean?
Well, what I mean is that besides the namesake, at that point, there is nothing to connect it to the rest of the films. It's creatively bankrupt.
That actually is a really good point.
That's
I remember when I saw
The
Force Awakens. No, I was like, when I saw The First Awakens, I was like, this is literally just like episodes 4 through 6 never happened.
Yeah.
Like, it was just like, pretty much just like, oh, it just never happened. This is a new thing now.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I can see that because it's just kind of like, it feels almost like, and this, I guess, is also brought in The Last Jedi, the feeling that even though I like the movie, I guess you have that feeling of, oh, everything Luke accomplished, seeing that satisfying moment in Return of the Jedi when he burns Darth Vader and, he goes, and they have that song, the Wub Wub song or whatever the Ewoks do.
What the fuck are you talking
and they
about?
celebrate, right? Knowing that all of that triumph, and then it's just kind of like, we're back again. The villains are back again, back to square one. It's like, you're almost just like, really, like all that work, and then
And that's exactly it. It's depressing. It's because like to see them like it's like you know that they should have pulled the plug long ago, but they decide to keep the life support on, hoping that like they'll see the eyes start blinking or the fingers start moving, but it's dead. Like everything has ran its course. It was tied in such a nice bow that it's almost disrespectful to like the original story to just keep it going, because we as an audience can tell like when a story's reached its natural conclusion. Like we're not stupid. Like even though you make a sequel, it's like we still get this lethargic feeling that like, okay, like when are they going to stop? Because can I say, when I watched The Last Jedi and I saw how fucking old Carrie Fisher looked, it actually made me sad. Like she needs to take a nap, and like this poor woman, it's like for 40 years and she's sad all over again. She's just sad again. Well, that's exactly it. They have no idea what they're doing with the series because apparently she's alive still by the end of the episode. It's because everybody is so old. Harrison Ford is he's still wearing the stupid jacket and everything. It's just like these poor people. It actually makes me feel sad watching it. Like I'm depressed. Good thing they didn't give Chewbacca like gray hair and shit.
Well, isn't he like he's like
He's
in the
already
original trilogy, he's already really old, so doesn't he have like a really
He's
long...
like 150 or something like that.
No, I think it was 190 they established in Solo.
I don't care. I don't care at all.
Brendan,
This is a movie.
Some of the other expanded parts of Star Wars that other than the prequels and the new movies, is that you've never watched any of these TV series, right? Like the Clone Wars or even Rebels.
Oh God, those are amazing.
But Dan, that isn't that kind of the problem, because like Star Wars has escalated so far beyond the films that like a lot of people know about Star Wars without even seeing the films.
Exactly.
It's so oversaturated. It's just this huge marketing thing. But the problem is, yeah, I know the original started it, but the problem is that we can no longer even like people say like, oh, you can't understand them unless you like read all these books and everything. It's a movie. Like until they understand that, they will never make a good.
Saying that?
I think you are. You are right now.
No, he's not. He's saying that there is other stuff. He's not saying that you have
other stuff. I mean, I'm just saying the potential for Star Wars to have this expanded universe, a good expanded universe, is there. We already have very great TV series, games, like fantastic things. They've just really overly screwed up these movies, prequels, and the next trilogy here, this new series.
Well, hey, don't hate on the prequels too much.
I think the prequels were executed really poorly. The premise of the movies was like okay, it had a good idea, but like they just botched it up. It was kind of
That's fair. That's a fair point. They did fuck it up.
No, I think what the problem is with all of this is just it's Disney. They're rewriting Star Wars and they're screwing it up. They've removed all of this stuff from the past. Star Wars was never meant to have more movies ever. It was supposed to just be A New Hope, and then they realized that all right, people like this, so they made 2 more movies. And then that was it.
I thought he had a vision for like more movies from the beginning.
Nobody wanted this. It was just one movie.
It was Star Wars. It was like the 19.
This is just one long drawn out.
I've heard that he originally planned for the original trilogy to be more than a trilogy.
I don't know how true that is.
Anywhere.
I heard that it was like actually like a lot more planned, like 12 or something like crazy.
No, I knew he had an idea for like the original trilogy, and then he had like a sequel thing that he wanted to do, but he's a psycho and he did the prequel so badly nobody wanted him to do it.
And the prequels were almost entirely directed by him. But enough of that. We're talking about the Disney series now.
Yeah, that can be another podcast.
They just screwed that up so badly.
I think
all right, we can agree on that.
I would agree with Dan that the potential for an expanded universe is there. I get what Brendan is saying. I think the difference between a cinematic universe and expanded universe is cinematic universe I almost see as like a wanting money thing. Expanded I almost see as, it's money's part of it. But the expanded universe was always like, all right, here's the movies. If you want to see, this works perfectly fine on its own. If you want to read more about Luke and all of them, here are these comic books for you to read. Like it's just kind of like a little add-on, which I think is fine. I think if you want to expand a bit, sure. But it's like
people who enjoy Star Wars. Yeah. You never needed these to understand everything about it. This is just, it's bonus content. That's it.
If you want to know more,
And some of it is pretty worthwhile. These movies, however, are not. They screw up the story. They're trying to make it all canon. it's just it horribly destroys the story.
Now, I never read any of the Legends canon, so I could understand. I have a Star Wars book I had for years, so I had a base idea. Like I knew that that Han and Leia had kids, had 3 kids. I knew little things that I read in this book, but I never read the comics themselves.
Well, the thing is, that's not canon anymore.
Yeah, that being said, yeah, I can understand why people were just outraged that it just got like all these years of feeling attached, and it's just like, you know, gone. Thanos just snapped it out of existence.
Is that? Oh, Jesus.
You know, I had to do it. You know, and it's like, so I can understand fully why people are, I guess, outraged. But I see the potential, and I guess since we haven't gone too in depth with The Last Jedi, we could talk about Rogue One, since we're kind of talking about expanded universes and not Episode 8 quite yet. We'll talk about how Rogue One is. Rogue One. What were your guys' thoughts? Because I feel like that was a good story to tell.
I thought that I'm gonna say something. I love Rogue One. I think it's great. I mean, practically just because the rest of the Disney movies are terrible, but I think Rogue One by far is better than the episodes, better than Solo. I think it's the best. I just loved it so much. From being back in the Empire to Darth Vader to all this stuff. I thought it was a good story. I thought they didn't do that whole, copying the New Hope thing. I thought they were still able to include all these characters. I thought it was great.
Yeah, for sure. I think the way that it was done. I think one complaint I've heard, and I heard this about Solo, is that they're turning what were once throwaway lines into movies. But I didn't think Rogue One that was a problem. It still felt like a Star Wars story.
Rogue One is the biggest piece of shit I have ever seen in my life. Oh my God, was Rogue One terrible?
Please elaborate.
Yeah, please elaborate.
It's
I'm not saying I agree with either of you yet, but let's elaborate, please, Brendan.
It's a non-story. Because the point is, at the end of the New Hope, they blow up the Death Star. The point is that they got the plans. I don't care how they got them. When it's already pre-established before the movie comes out that they got the plans and it was a success, then all of a sudden everything else becomes meaningless because they already got the plans. I know what happens. So to make a story about them, like a super suspenseful story about them finally getting these plans that we already know what happens, it's baffling to me that this was
Brendan,
supposed to be like how they
get a very big thing. Rogue One is only partially about the plans. First of all,
what was that? All right, so anyway,
we're deleting this podcast.
Wait, what?
No, I think you're overlooking something, Brendan.
Wait, Dan, real quick,
was not
do you
all
want me to cut
about
that out, or should I leave that in?
Just leave it in. It's got to be left in.
No,
It's got to be left
Brendan.
in.
Rogue One was not just about the plans. That's not the point of the movie. You're supposed to get attached to the characters and go through this experience with them.
What are the characters?
What's her name?
What are the characters doing?
Something. It's about her finding her father and what happened to him and completing his mission, and not so much getting the plans.
What is his mission?
His mission is destroy the Death Star.
Yeah.
No,
so isn't that kind of the point? They already destroyed it.
You don't know what's going to happen to her father. It's like that's where the suspense comes from in the movie.
And the other problem is I don't care what happens to her father. I didn't give a shit because they didn't establish the character whatsoever. Within the first 5 minutes, they truck him off screen, and then
it's like it's like meh. It's okay. It's not great. It's a movie. I don't think it was terrible though.
All right, that's a fair point.
You're supposed to be building that connection with these characters, and that it's.
Wait, I'm sorry, Dan. Were you emotionally connected to the CGI Grand Moff Tarkin?
A little bit.
You were emotionally connected to a
Tarkin was good. I'm not gonna lie.
To be honest, Brendan, more than emotionally,
it was so turned on. It felt painfully obvious that that it's just embarrassing to see them still trying so hard to make things work that already happened. I'm sorry, but most of the things that made it good were just painful fan service. the all of the clones and everything, and look at the AT-ATs, and then look at the TIE fighters. You haven't seen this in a long time, but does that make it a good film?
No, I think you're looking at the overtly like pleasurable things, the super nostalgic things. Like those were definitely the best parts of the movie, just because it was an like,
and that's sad.
Movie.
The sad thing is that the best parts of the movie are recycled parts.
Those aren't exactly recycled. They're just like, it's nostalgic. That's it. You get to see the image.
Yeah, but Dan, don't you think that
not even nostalgic? It's just kind of an epic scene.
Is that you seem to think that was all garbage in The Force Awakens, yet in Rogue One, it's somehow the best part. Can you maybe elaborate on what the difference between these two would be?
The difference between them is that in Rogue One, it's the best part because it's an okay movie. They didn't like terribly destroy the storyline. They're completely like new, original. I don't want to say completely original because some of the characters are just like, they seem based off of, separate different people. But
all of the characters are just like,
they're different characters. I like everything is slightly different. It's like they're making a new story. With this, it's with the new movies. It's like in The Force Awakens, it's like they're trying to recreate the New Hope blatantly. They have the rebellion is being chased. You have to blow up the Death Star. It's like it's just a disgusting, weird, like Frankenstein movie. It was nice in Rogue One seeing like all of your favorite Star Wars things come back to life, and it didn't really impact the storyline. But like then they took it in The Force Awakens, and they just kind of botched everything. They destroyed all of your expectations for like a decent movie.
I mean, I went into Rogue One thinking it was going to be trash because of The Force Awakens. I was like, The Force Awakens was not great. I mean, they're kind of screwing us up here. And I went into Rogue One, and I guess I saw that it was like so much. I don't know. I don't want to say it was great. I'm kind of taking back my original point. I loved it, but I think only because of how they fucked up the first movie, The Force Awakens. They fucked that one up. So now I'm going into this one. I'm looking at it. It's like, oh, this is so much better. I mean, one of the greatest scenes of that movie, the end with Darth Vader. I mean,
that scene was fantastic.
That was just one of I think that was one of the greatest Star Wars scenes of possibly all time.
I felt bad when I saw that scene. Like it actually hurt me to see that scene because the movie had to stand still so that Darth Vader could take out his red lightsaber and start swinging it around to appease everyone. If this is a new movie with a new story and new characters, then why do they have to rely so much on preconceived properties in order to make it entertaining?
They didn't. People just liked that a lot. Like that wasn't the intention.
Yeah, I liked it. That's just it was enjoyable to watch.
Making Star Wars without fan service.
Okay,
I get what you're saying.
If
Star Wars is known for
how long can they milk old ideas?
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about here.
Okay, so I'm not seeing Darth Vader take out his lightsaber and start hitting everyone. That is good filmmaking because
the action. It's not the action. It's the themes that they're trying to carry throughout all of these movies. They're dragging them to death. I would not.
No, but my problem is that they have no themes. They are just using the action
in every movie, but like a different theme, please.
And that's another problem. Please, a different theme. Okay, but the problem is I that is not Rogue One's. I'm not like, oh, that was a great scene from Rogue One when Darth Vader took out his thing. I'm like, oh, Darth Vader took it out. That reminds me of these older films. Like that is nothing to Rogue One's credit. Nothing.
No. Rogue One's scene where Darth Vader cut down all of those soldiers, that was like an impressive scene. That was a
Darth Vader was never that combative.
No, you never see him do anything like that. Like you see him choke someone out.
Who cares? Who cares about seeing this fucking schmuck? Oh my god! In A New Hope, he was just some guy in a suit, like a schmuck.
Hold on. He's not a schmuck. What are you talking about? Don't call Darth Vader a schmuck.
Not Darth Vader. All right, that is an icon right there.
Darth Vader is one of the greatest American pop culture characters that has ever been created.
That's exactly it. They're not movies anymore. They're pieces of American culture that they're using to make money. Like, you're being had. How do you not see this? They're scamming
Brendan,
you.
we live in the United States of America. Of course we're being had.
Yeah, but that's the point. It's not good filmmaking. It just isn't.
I get your point. I get your point.
Brendan's not coming from the same mindset as a lot of us. I'm a genuine Star Wars fan.
I
Okay,
understand.
I am a film fan. I don't care about Star Wars.
Exactly. I'm not
You don't. Wait, Brendan, you used to be the biggest Star Wars fan.
I know. You know what happened?
What?
I turned 9. Okay, because like here's the problem. It is not intellectually stimulating to me to see something that I've already seen happen again, but bigger and better. I want to be challenged.
That's fair. That's fair.
That's a good.
So let me ask you this, guys. Then, if there's anything to prove, because we've talked about the Darth Vader scene ad nauseum. If there's anything to prove, or I guess before we get to this, I want to say, what are your thoughts on the way it just ties directly into A New Hope? Do you think that it changes the context of it?
Oh my God, that was also so bad because that just shows how much they need the older films to make these enjoyable. Okay, because imagine if you're a little kid, okay, and Rogue One is the first movie that you're seeing, which is totally understandable. You're a little kid, your parents took you to the theater, and you see it. Like, what does that ending mean to you if you haven't seen A New Hope? You see, because that's it. It's just appeasing the fans who want to see A New Hope again. I want to see like an actual film ending, like not just a carryover to an older movie.
I actually hadn't thought about it like that before. That's a really good point.
That is a good point.
The movie doesn't stand on its own. Imagine if you haven't seen the older films. It just doesn't.
Problem, but like,
it's a huge problem.
That is actually a very good point. But to be fair, the Empire Strikes Back ending, Empire Strikes Back is one of my favorite films of all time. In my opinion, it is the best Star Wars. I know that's mainstream. When I was little, it was Return of the Jedi and a bit Revenge of the Sith for a little while. Mostly Return of the Jedi. Anyway, but now I'm standing on the ground that Empire Strikes Back is the best. But that ending,
totally understandable. I agree. Continue.
That ending, like you need Return of the Jedi. I feel like for that ending to carry over.
I'm sorry. What?
Like you kind of need Return of the Jedi.
You need a movie that hasn't been made yet to make the ending enjoyable.
No.
Okay, all right. Imagine if you're sitting in the theater and it is the year 1980. That ending still has meaning because despite everything that's happened, they're all together. And even though things look dark, even though they're alone in the spaceship with nobody around, like they're still hopeful. They're still optimistic about what's going to happen next. That's the point. It's a beautiful little moment.
All right, never mind. Yeah, I really worded that poorly, and I kind of let that one out, and that was on me. My bad, guys. I get what you're saying now. Yeah, that was poorly. Yeah. So anyway, to get away from that, so Brendan was saying how Rogue One has nothing of value outside of those moments, and I think it is fair to say that a lot of the best moments in Rogue One had required stuff from the original. But is there anything you guys felt that made Rogue One of merit?
I mean, define merit.
Like a value, like what made you like Rogue One outside of just tying into the original?
I'd love to hear this.
I'll start. So I do agree that a lot of it does rely too heavily on tying into the original. I do agree with that. However, I do like the idea of these characters, because these characters to me did feel like Star Wars characters. They felt like new Star Wars characters. They were likable. I liked the group. I think some of them could have been established more. I think I wish they had focused more on the group dynamic and less on Jin's father, because Jin's father I didn't find very interesting. I didn't feel badly really when he died.
Do you know what would have made a good movie?
What?
A movie about him. Because like he actually has some conflict, like stuff that you can like which side is he gonna pick? Is he gonna go through with making this thing for the Empire, or is he gonna like betray them? Maybe he likes being evil. Maybe this is like a Breaking Bad, Walter White sort of thing. But they don't. They decide to make it about this girl who wants to blow up the Death Star, which already happened.
Fair enough, but I think I like the idea that it's kind of like these guys are coming together. They know that it's almost like a tragic version of Star Wars, where instead of having these characters like Luke, Han, Leia, Chewie, C-3PO and R2-D2, Lando, where you know that these band of misfits are getting together to fight the Empire, and you know they're going to win. It's that, but with a tragic twist, and you see that because they feel like lighthearted. I think the lighthearted moments were like K2SO. I found him very funny when he died. He was the first one to go. I just felt like, that just felt like so sad to see him. It's almost, to me, I like the fact that it's like a tragic twist on Star Wars, where instead of them all heroically triumphant and then they celebrate with Ewoks, they die and then they have to carry someone else. They don't even accomplish everything they wanted to. Someone else has to carry it on. I like the idea.
To me, that was it. Almost came across as cheap. Like, okay, because again, go back to the because the beautiful thing about Star Wars was its accessibility. Like, anyone could see it and everyone could like be pleased by it. But this was such a tonal shift. It's just like I don't think the movie is good because everybody dies at the end. Like that doesn't automatically make it a good movie. I think the problem is they honestly did not know what to do with these characters because the characters would not have had a payoff had they lived. Because like, the whole point is that like if all of them have this goal they want to achieve, and it's just like the problem is it's so hard to communicate the idea of them achieving it because it really is just them getting plans and giving it to somebody else. It's a non-story, like I said. So I think there was nothing else they could do but have them die and be like, oh, look at their sacrifice.
Yeah, I do kind of agree with Brendan about what he said earlier, especially about how, as for me, I'm a Star Wars fan, so clearly I like this movie because I could relate to this movie and the ending, especially. It's like, oh, I know exactly what's going to happen, blah, 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 like all through A New Hope, I know this. But I mean, it is really not like, it's not really relevant to anybody who just is not a Star Wars fan, hasn't really seen Star Wars.
Yeah, and imagine if you are a little kid in the theater and this is the first Star Wars movie you're thinking. Does everybody dying in the end really weirdly, does that contribute to the magic? Like, what does that mean to the little kid sitting there? Like what is the message of the movie? Like, it's just so bogged down.
No, I get it. I guess I can understand that. To me, that's also the fault of the parent for taking them to see, for making them watch any other Star Wars.
No, it's not. No, it's not. They see the commercials with the funny robot in it who's making all the quips, and then they go in, and then the funny robot gets shot in the fucking head. It's not the parents' fault. It's Star Wars. Like, they should. If they really do want to make the cinematic universe about Star Wars, then maybe they should like bring in a better screenwriter to actually make a Star Wars movie.
But my point. Okay, we just had a member drop out. But
I think Dan's gone.
Yeah, Dan just disappeared. But we'll carry on. And so my point is that first of all, as a parent, you got to know, this is what my mom showed me. Original Star Wars first. Okay, your kid should know what Star Wars is. I mean, granted, I did see Revenge of the Sith in theaters like soon after I saw the original. But that's just because it was at theaters at the time and it was Star Wars, you know. And my mom had no interest in seeing Revenge of the Sith because she didn't even want to watch the prequels because she was just so disinterested and heard horrible things. But the point is, she had me see the original first. I think that, like, as parents, you got to be like, all right, kid, no, you got to take the reins a bit and be like, this is how you watch Star Wars, you know.
I mean, if we're having this conversation, I actually was like thinking to myself at work the other day. I was like, hold on. I was like actually thinking to myself at work the other day. I was like, all right, if I like have a kid, what Star Wars is he gonna watch, or he or she? It's 2018. Is gonna watch first. Like, I don't know. I was.
Yeah. So I would show them the original trilogy first, then prequels. The new ones are now making it hard to figure out. All right, now let's talk about.
Wait, before we move on, can you listen to yourself for a second? You literally have to map out a tutorial on how to watch these movies in order to make them enjoyable.
No, not to make them
like no other film or no other film series requires this much attention to detail and this much like benefit of the doubt in order to make them enjoyable. If the title isn't Rogue One Star Wars episode this, it's a Star Wars story. By them calling it a story, a spin-off, the implication is that it should stand on its own. And I think its biggest problem is that it does not stand on its own.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, it's really it's a fan movie. It's like you have to know where it fits.
It's probably the best fan-made Star Wars movie I've ever seen. That's the best credit I can give it. A fan-made movie.
Yeah. I think it does. I think a lot of what you're saying does definitely hold a lot of water and a lot of weight. But I think at the end of the day, when people say that they want to watch in this order first, what they mean is that the original trilogy is the primary thing. The original, what it started as, Brendan, what we're all agreeing on was great. that is what comes first. If you want to get into Star Wars, dabble in the other stuff. But the thing is, you got to watch the original trilogy. That's kind of the point I'm making.
Okay, fine. The original trilogy is good. The original trilogy makes Rogue One watchable, but that does not make it a good movie.
I get what you're saying. I totally do. And I think now let's talk about since we're already getting controversial, and we haven't even gotten to the real controversial yet. I originally said we were going to talk about this earlier.
Oh yeah, here we go.
We put it off. Here we go. The big boy. Let's talk about it.
I have some things to say.
Can of worms.
Are we talking about The Last Jedi?
We are
Of course
talking about the Star
Oh,
Wars
I'd love to
episode
talk
8,
about
The Last Jedi. All right, so full disclosure, I saw this in theaters, as did Aiden. Aiden, you saw it opening day, or did you see it midnight?
No, midnight premiere, classic. Every Star Wars midnight premiere. Of course I did.
As with The Force Awakens and Rogue One,
and I shit the bed. So.
Anyway, so we're talking about this, and I saw it in theater. Aiden saw it in theater. I saw it that Saturday. He saw it that Thursday. Not that that's important. What is important, though, is that Brendan just saw it. How long ago on Netflix?
Like a week ago.
Did you see Rogue One on in theaters?
No, I watched it on Netflix because I couldn't care enough to drive to the movies. I think that's the biggest problem with these movies. They make me like have zero interest in following up on them. So yeah, I waited for Netflix for all of them. Yes, I rented Last Jedi from a red box.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, Force Awakens from a red box.
Oh, okay.
Oh, you didn't even see. All right, yeah. So that's a good indication of Brendan's real lack of interest, which is good. It's good to hear that firsthand. So
no, it's not my lack of interest. It's a fault in the filmmakers for not being able to stimulate interest.
Which I think is why a lot of people didn't go to see Solo, apart from the boycott, is also just I've never thought I'd see the day while I won't see a Star Wars movie until like the 5th week that it's out, which we can get into Solo later. But it's just, I guess it's kind of getting to that point. But The Last Jedi I wanted to see, especially because I wanted to see how The Force Awakens gets followed up, because it's an episode in the series, so it's more important. That's kind of weird to think about too, that there's a difference now between episodes and then side stories.
I know. Aren't movies magical, Vaughn? This is a canon official Star Wars episode release. Please give it more attention. Oh, I love it. It's really magical.
Okay, well, getting back to this whole idea of The Last Jedi. Let's talk about this. Aiden, I want your thoughts first.
All right. Well, here's the thing with Last Jedi. I've said this before. I'm going to say it again. I saw it and I loved it. I left the theater. I was like, more Star Wars, yay! And then, 2 hours later, I was sitting there. It was 3 a.m. and I was like, wait a minute, that was horrible. Wait, this whole Rose Tico thing. That was I know it's mainstream. It's bash it, but it was so bad. I almost cried. I saw it a second time with my dad. It was, I couldn't even watch that part. I had to leave the theater. I was like, I'm going to the bathroom. I can't watch this. It was so painful for me to watch it. Can I go ahead and just spoil some things?
Go ahead. Yeah, we've been spoiling this whole time.
Yeah. So when at the very end, when they have that cannon about to blast through the rebel base's door or whatever, and Finn's about to do, that was the perfect ending for Finn's character. The most perfect thing I've ever seen. And she comes in with her fat ass face and fucking snacks out of the way. It's like, oh, you have to fight for what you love. This is fucking Star Wars. I don't care about that.
Oh no, and that statement also doesn't make any sense.
No, of course it doesn't make sense.
Because the implication is that destroying things is it's a bad thing to happen. When not 5 minutes later, the purple-haired lady suicide bombed the entire ship to save everyone and blew up everything. Yeah, that wasn't really out of love, if you ask me.
That was, yeah.
Oh my god, this character is just unbelievably horrible. And of course, she shouldn't have gotten there's that whole the far right troll thing. She shouldn't have gotten any of that. That's not her fault. It's the writer's fault. I think Vaughn, we talked about this before.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the actress's fault at all. No, of course not.
Everyone. Don't blame the character. The prequels. Don't blame Hayden Christensen. Blame the way they're written. I know that's my opinion.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. But so this whole sort of, Finn was my only hope for this series. Finn was the only character where I kind of felt like he could go somewhere. I was like, all right, this is a cool guy. Like, I mean, I kind of like Ray. I'm not a big fan of Poe. I mean, I kind of like them all, but Finn is definitely the best one out of all of them. I mean, even if he's not great, like the original characters in the original three. And that was like, for me, that was his perfect ending for like a perfect, kind of character. I mean, he wouldn't have lasted the whole trilogy, but still, like, that's such a noble ending. And it might be cliche in a sense, but I still thought it was perfect. And even before that, the way they paired him up with this girl, the entire movie, it just ruined his character.
I feel that even more than just ruining characters, I think one thing I found fun walking away from The Last Jedi, and again, I was like you, I walked out of the movie having my issues, but overall liking it a lot. And I'm still on the fence in certain areas. I want to see it a second time. I have yet to. I still feel like when I watch it a second time, my issues will remain issues. And
I just saw it again like two hours ago. So
yeah. So I think. Oh, so that's your third time seeing it?
Oh, I watched it on Netflix today because I was bored.
So you're fully on board on the just not liking it kind of train?
Yep.
So my thing with it is shoot, what was I saying? I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought. My thing. So I walked out of it not being a huge fan of it. One of my things was that The Force Awakens, say what you want about it, but it leaves you kind of thinking this is the start of a new story. New, you can put in quotations if you think it's just going to be the originals, copy and pasted, whatever. But one thing I felt, and I couldn't put my finger on exactly what it was, but it felt like Poe, Rey, and Finn were supposed to almost be like the new Han, Luke, and Leia, right? But the thing was, and I was trying to distinguish why these people aren't as memorable, and I think it comes down to the writing, not just their base characters I find are inferior in a lot of ways, but I also think that it's because these new characters, right? These new characters, they're kind of split up. Like, for example, Han, Luke, Leia, all of them are in the Millennium Falcon. Then it's like they get split up in Empire Strikes Back, kind of like in The Last Jedi, except at least you still had Luke and R2 went somewhere else, and then you still had Han, Leia, Chewie, and C-3PO all together. With this one, it's like you have Poe on the ship, you have Finn doing whatever with Rose, and you have Rey doing Luke. So these three characters have no chemistry together. My problems were there wasn't really a lot of development with those characters. Any development Finn almost had, Rose blocked him.
Oh my god.
Rey, now I'm gonna get into something I was holding off complaining about in The Force Awakens, because when The Force Awakens first came out and people were like, oh, Rey is such a boring character. She's a Mary Sue, whatever. All she does is do everything. I was at first just like, come on, like, you're just complaining. She's not even that bad. Like she wasn't. And then The Last Jedi rolled around. And when she's training with Luke, the greatest Jedi Master ever, I realized she doesn't really have anything to learn. She's done everything in her first movie. She's already like a master at everything despite no training, and it's almost like where does she have left to go at this point? Like, yeah, she's kind of naive in some ways. And I like the part where they humanize Rey, and I want her, if she's more capable than Luke is from the start, that's fine. Makes perfect sense. Luke was a farm boy, she was a scavenger. So it makes sense why she's more capable. But like she's just like unbeat. Like when she takes out Luke in a fight, I was like, come on, like no way.
Oh, yeah, I
I
hated the movie. if I could just take over here. It was so after The Last Jedi, I mentioned that The Last Jedi really doesn't matter as a movie because like what all it essentially has to do is establish the characters because they don't want to distance any fans by taking any big creative risks. So the idea was to make a safe movie so as to ensure a more profitable series. So it was a smart economic decision. Again, our movie is magical. So I can excuse a lot of the problems with The Force Awakens, but the Last Jedi is really the thing that's going to decide whether I'm going to keep on watching Star Wars movies. And it completely made me not interested in anything that happens after this point because so they got Rian Johnson to direct and write the movie. They just gave him all of the all of the creative abilities. And what became abundantly clear is that they did not plan anything out ahead of time. And so they gave the series to some guy, the biggest franchise that Disney has, and they gave it to some guy. And he had no idea what to do with it because, again, there isn't a lot you can do with a Star Wars movie. It's good versus evil. Like, that's all you can do. So their solution was to subvert every single expectation established in The Force Awakens in an attempt to, like, drum up shock or surprise, like as if he was trolling the audience, because it's like, oh, like, what's gonna happen to Rey? Like, is she Luke's daughter or something? Nope, her parents are just a bunch of nobodies. It's like, oh, what about Snoke? He was kind of cool. Like, who is he? Is he like Palpatine? Nope, he's just some guy, and he dies without any contributions to the story or any fulfillment or an explanation as to why he was there in the first place. And so it's just you got this overwhelming feeling of just like, oh, they're fucking with us at this point. Like, 2 lightsabers don't even touch in the entire movie, and I'm fine with that. But the problem is, then you have to replace that with something else of substance. But the problem is, that's all Star Wars is. If you don't have lightsabers, if you don't have fights, then there really is nothing happening. And I almost felt so confused while the movie, because I was trying to figure out why it existed. The whole time I was watching it, I felt like I was going to wake up, and then I'm like, oh, it's time to watch the new Star Wars movie, because it just felt so weird. Like, because the thing is, it's that Star Wars doesn't have a lot of things you can do with it. It just doesn't. So what ends up happening is that you end up making a meandering movie that just does a bunch of stuff for 2.5 hours and then it just ends. And that was an overwhelming problem with this movie.
Yeah, I guess I can understand that. I think here's one thing I'll say about this is I think a lot of people are like, Rian Johnson's a shit director and all that. I don't think that's called for. I don't think that's fair to say that. I think he's shown that he's a competent, dare I say, in some ways a great director. I do, and I want to watch some of his other stuff. But I think that this movie did have a lot. I think all of the main problems in this movie lie not in the production, not in the filming itself, but in the script.
Rian Johnson wrote the script.
Stories, yeah, no, I'm saying that, but I'm saying as a director, I don't think it's fair to fault him. I think script and story.
I think there were a lot of awkward moments in direction in this movie.
You think so?
I don't think Rian Johnson was ready for a blockbuster. The biggest movie he made, like, since this, he's made 2 kind of big movies, which is Looper and another movie called Brick, which is like a noir movie, and then Looper is like a concept, like about time travel, and they're competent, but I wouldn't see that and be like, okay, he's ready to direct a major franchise. There were so many awkward moments of editing, like, why isn't there a scene in which, like, Rey talks to Luke about Han dying? They just like, oh nope, it doesn't matter. Like they're not going to talk about it at all, which is like everything that was established, he just tears down. Because there really is. Oh, and then all of the slapstick humor, like that was like really awkwardly placed. Because if you want to make this dark story that completely branches off, where Luke is totally disillusioned with everything, that's an interesting concept. But don't make him have so many snarky one-liners. It was so distracting.
No, I agree.
The direction is to blame for that.
I thought the way it was advertised, like when they first announced it's called The Last Jedi, and you see that red text, and then the way the trailer was edited and people were theorizing, is Rey going to turn to the dark side? And I said, if she's going to turn, I'm going to be pissed. But looking back, that wouldn't have been a more interesting direction. Because it's just like, to me, it's like he almost wants to commit to this dark story. And in some parts, some of my favorite parts of the movie are when it feels fully commits. Because I can tell what he's trying to communicate. It's the moments I like the least, or when he doesn't communicate the whole darkness thing. Like the moment with Rose that contradicts everything else he's been saying with the film. I just feel like all these moments, like I like when it gets dark, but then when you have the whole scenes, for example, the whole cell phone humor, that felt weird too, where Poe goes up and he's like, hello, can you hear me? Can you hear me? And Hux is like, oh, I can't hear you. And Hux, by the way, is a joke in this film. When I don't like the humor just felt so like what the humor, you know what I mean?
Oh, the humor was trash. Like, nobody's doubting that. The humor was probably
Like, first of all, why
it
does
was horrible.
like the humor should just be part of the story? Like, it shouldn't be like there's this. It's because to me, I guess it kind of comes back to what you were saying before. It's almost like it's an equation, like nostalgia plus humor plus action. Movies, it felt like it all blended together. The other ones before, and I feel like in the parts of the Last Jedi where these things do blend together, the humor never blends at any point. But when everything else, I felt like the Force Awakens had actually good humor. That's my opinion. But I think this one, when things blend together, they do work really nicely. But when they don't, they really don't. That's one of my things. It's when it works beautifully. When The Last Jedi does not work, it does not work. That's my thought.
No,
I mean,
okay, the biggest problem with The Last Jedi is that it's a series of B plots.
Sorry, you can go, Brent.
It's a series of B plots, essentially, all strung together into a feature film. Like them going, and they have to find this code breaker guy. That should just be a thing happening on the side. And it's the main fucking plot point of the entire movie. And it becomes painfully obvious. Oh, and then Rey, she keeps on asking, like, what is my purpose? Like, what am I doing here? Like, what's the point of all this? That doesn't come across as, like, thematically interesting or, like, there's a conflict in the character. I feel like that's Rian Johnson subconsciously voicing his frustrations as to what the fuck do I do with this movie? because when she was like, oh, what is my purpose? And then, like, and then what's his name? What's the bad guy's name?
Kylo Ren.
Yeah. What's his name? He goes. Oh no, you don't have a purpose. Like, you're just some girl and you were dropped off somewhere. So okay, all right, if you're not going to do that, if you're not going to go through with the fact that, like, oh, she's some sort of, like, weird, like, spawn of the Force or something, then what do you have? Like what is the movie about? Like, okay, yeah, it's awesome that like Rian Johnson wants to fuck with us and pull the rug out from under us about, like, every single, like, fan theory that we've ever had. But then you also have to make a movie, and he didn't.
Like, what's under the rug? Like, you pull out the rug, and then it's like, there's a pit, and you just fall right through. You know what I mean? It's like, what's there? What's there to cushion our fall? What's there to, like, you know? It's like, to me, it's like, he pulled out the rug. He's like, gotcha, and then it's like, okay, why?
And again, this goes back to what Dan was saying earlier. Like, like you can make a Star Wars movie without, like, doing the usual Star Wars stuff. And they did try to do that. They did try to do it by neglecting all of the stuff they pre-established and, like, making a movie completely different where there's, like, no lightsaber fights, no nothing. And what happened was they made a movie about nothing. So I think that almost inherently proves that Star Wars is creatively bankrupt. There is not a lot that you can do with the franchise. You're beating a dead horse.
Yeah, I mean,
it's kind of weird to think of Star Wars that way, but I guess I understand what you're saying.
No, it's perfectly natural to think about it that way. It was a nice 3-part story about a farm boy who makes a difference in the world. It's a very, very, very generic story structure. It's the hero's journey. It's good versus evil, and then good wins in the end. That's it.
I mean, there's two things with The Last Jedi. I have two things here. One is, I'll sort of elaborate off what Brennan said. I think Rian Johnson is so focused on sort of defying every theory, sort of taking this new direction, like Snoke's dead, and, like, we're still, like, an hour left in the movie. Rey comes from nowhere. Like, this whole thing, everything that was set up in The Force Awakens was just completely twisted and just thrown away. It was all thrown away. So we have, he just keeps trying to do this stuff. He's like, the fans won't expect this. Oh, they won't expect this. Nobody's gonna expect this. And, like, that it's just made a horrible movie. Like, he got rid of all this substance and replaced it with nothing. And so now it's just horrible. And I mean, that sort of leads into my second point, where he threw out everything. All right, The Force Awakens had its problems. We discussed this, obviously. But it did, what Vaughn said, I agree, it set something up. Whether it was good or bad, it set something up, and Rian Johnson took that and threw it away. Force Awakens might as well never happen in this movie.
The original trilogy might as well. It's like almost like we're back from square one, which I get that this is almost like, I get that this is Rian Johnson's intention. The whole let the past die, kill it if you have to. But and I liked some of his things. I liked when Luke said, I never thought I'd agree with his whole idea of the Jedi need to end, but this movie made me go, yeah, the Jedi kind of do suck. Maybe it is time to start anew. And I liked Kylo Ren's idea of. I personally like the way he killed Snoke. I kind of wish I had known his backstory. I think that's the only thing we're on set on. I still didn't think Snoke was that interesting of a character before. I really
He
didn't.
wasn't a character.
Which
He
is
wasn't.
why
He just wasn't a character.
Which is why I think, because Kylo Ren, I think, is probably the best written character in the new trilogy. I really do. I think Adam Driver does a great job. So I think when he kills off Snoke and he reaches his hand out to Rey, that I thought was the best, like one of the best scenes in the movie. Is that whole throne room scene?
I agree. No, it was awesome.
Fantastic.
The problem with it is it threw away everything from The Force Awakens, and it was just.
I thought it was going in I thought that was the first time where it really felt like a bold new direction. Where it really felt.
No, and that's just it. All of the ideas that could have taken it in like a new direction were so half baked. Like, Luke deciding like, oh no, I'm gonna destroy the Jedi and everything is a cool idea. But then halfway into the movie, he decides, no, we like the Jedi are important. We got to bring him back. And then he just goes ahead and he brings the Jedi back. He fights to get Rey saved and everybody else. Like, and then like, Kylo Ren like saying, we should rebuild everything. Like, fuck everything, fuck the past and everything. Let's make a new thing. Let's take over the universe together. And then he holds out his hand. I wish, oh my God, I was hoping so much that she would just be like, yeah, totally. Because then we would have had a totally new story. Like, everything would be totally fucking new. But then instead, she's like, nope, it's good versus evil again.
Yeah.
Kylo Ren's evil.
That's
because they spend half the fucking movie talking about, is Kylo Ren good? Is he bad? And then by the end of the movie, they're like, nah, like, we don't, it doesn't really matter. Like, it's everything, nothing is followed through. Nothing.
Yeah, I agree on that. I think that's a big issue. I think another issue would be that I think the lack of follow through is important. I also think another moment that exemplifies this. I like the moment where Yoda comes back. I like that a lot. And when they burn down the Jedi Temple, except at
that was stupid. Movie, oh my God, that was so stupid.
I thought that was good. We'll get into that later. But at the very end of the movie, after burning all the books, she opens the drawer and there are the books. What was the point of burning down the Jedi Temple? You have this moment where they just reflect on how it's burning. Page turners, they are not. I like that line. And then it's like, you bring the books, so it's like, what did we learn there? What did we accomplish? And is this? I would have liked to start a new Jedi Order. That's fine. Luke Skywalker, I felt like, because I feel like he was always different from the other Jedi, which is why I would have liked to see his take on what the Jedi should be. I think his take would have made the Jedi more relatable, because the Force Awakens, they almost felt like priests, like they couldn't love. The prequels on it. They couldn't love all that. So it would have been nice to see a new direction. And I feel like a lot of these ideas, this is my biggest issue with Last Jedi. I think that it was a rough draft that got published. It needed someone needed to look over it and polish everything. I think he had so many good ideas. He needed someone to look it over, and maybe they needed to polish it a bit more. That's what my thing is. I think there were a lot of great ideas that needed to be executed better. Another thing is I feel like they keep trying to make Rey more interesting character than they try so hard to convince you that she's more interesting than she actually is. Now, I like Daisy Ridley as Rey. I like her performance as Rey. I think Daisy Ridley does a good job. But from a writing standpoint, I find she is a very, if it weren't for Daisy Ridley's performance, I would find her to be a very bland character. I just would. I think Daisy Ridley brings a lot of charm to her character. She's got a lot of charisma in her acting. But I think that, in terms of, for example, they try and give you this whole idea that she's getting pulled into the dark side. She's so easily manipulated. Oh, she could turn in a second. They keep telling you that, she falls in the pit. But at the end of the day, that's just a circle in the ground. I don't understand. She falls in. But when Kylo Ren gives her the ultimate reason to take her hand, he helped save her life. Not for a second does she hesitate. She goes, don't do this immediately. You never feel...
Yeah, no, that's the biggest problem. They spend so much time talking about why everything that's happening is important that they never show us why it's important. They spend so long talking about, what's Rey going to do? Is she going to do that? But then by the end of the movie, she doesn't do anything. It's like, and like I think a perfect thing that encapsulates what's wrong with the movie is when she eventually does fall in that pit, and instead of like just showing her like come up to the mirror thing, which I also thought was a stupid scene, like of her and then the scene like the infinite reflection thing, because I get the point, like she's trying to like look within herself and figure out like what her purpose is, but then there's a voiceover of her talking about that experience while it's happening, and then it turns out that she was talking to Kylo Ren the whole time about it. But it's like, give us a moment of just brief reflection before you go on and go back to the expositional explaining of it.
Yeah.
And then by the end, it doesn't mean anything.
No,
like,
I see. No, you keep going.
Oh no, because I see what they're trying. They're trying to draw a parallel between like when Luke goes into that cave in Dagobah, and then he fights Darth Vader, and then like the thing explodes, and then like. But the thing is, that actually had thematic importance. The point is that like by doing that, it was a clever way of demonstrating how close Luke was to being thrust into the dark side, and it foreshadowed like how close he was and how much Darth Vader would inevitably mean to him, because in the end, Darth Vader is a piece of him. It's his father. It was a beautiful moment, beautifully directed by
Irving Kershner.
I forget who. Yeah, that guy. The problem is when you try to remake that scene instead of making your own moments, you will obviously fail.
Yeah,
and that's that's what happened.
Like Vaughn talked about when the trailer came out with the red tech, he's like, "Oh no, if she turns to the dark side and kiss." I was excited. I was like, "Oh, if we have a Star Wars dark side ending, how cool and different would that be?" And I feel like The Last Jedi was set, like Brendan, you said, it was set up for that the entire movie.
That was the most frustrating thing. Yeah,
it was perfect for this dark side ending. It would have been a whole different story. Been amazing. Episode 9 would have been like everyone excited, like, "Oh, what's Rey gonna do? She's on the dark side." Because like what she reminded me of during this movie, she reminded me of Anakin Skywalker like a lot. Like she didn't know what she was so confused. She was so easily manipulated. She knew what she had to do because she knew it was right, but like at the same time, she wanted to find out who herself was, and Kylo Ren could offer that for her. So she she was balancing the light and the dark, and I felt it just is like it kind of reminded me of like the whole Anakin Skywalker Darth Vader thing, and I felt that could have gone in a really cool direction with the character. And in the end, it was just like, the Resistance, light versus dark, Kylo Ren's the bad guy, Rey's the good guy, and there we go.
All right, there's two more things I want to talk about before I'm done talking about like everything about like what's going to happen next. The two biggest problems with this movie is, for one thing, the pacing, in that there is no pacing. Like normally a story like it escalates and there's a climax and that's it. This movie ends about 45 minutes before it actually does end, with everybody getting off the ship, and it's like, oh yay, we finally did it, we got off the ship. Then they land, and then they try to kill everybody again, and then Luke comes, and then for some reason he's like a ghost, even though he dies anyway. So why didn't the real Luke just come? It was, again, like it's I have such a hard time relating to it because it's done in such an impersonal way, where it's just like there is no suspense if it's just a ghost of him coming and doing everything. Like the cool thing about all the lightsaber fights and everything wasn't like the choreography of it and all. It was the fact like these are two real people, obviously, and they're just duking it out, and you don't know what's gonna happen. But like by making him a ghost and then him fighting and then but not actually fighting him, and then like he's indestructible but then he dies anyway, is just so weird, and there's no payoff to it whatsoever. And the other thing with the pacing is that like he dies at the end of the super dramatic scene. But isn't that the sort of finality you should be looking for in the last movie of the trilogy? And that carries over into my second point, which is this movie makes me not excited at all for what happens next. Because I know what's going to happen next now. They established it in such a way, oh no, Kylo Ren, he's even more eviler than he was before, and now he's probably going to build a bigger weapon, probably that can destroy a whole galaxy instead of a solar system, and they're going to have to stop it, and they're going to have to kill him. Like, that's all that can happen now.
As much as I hate to say it, I do think you're right, because the beginning of the next one is apparently starting to sound even more like Return of the Jedi, like reportedly Rose, Rey, Finn. Apparently they start off...
Why is Rose still part of this freaking trilogy?
Apparently,
actually.
Because...
Oh, wait, do you want me to tell you why?
Yeah, tell me why.
I'd love to tell you why. Because Star Wars never plays well in Asian markets. It doesn't. And
right. I did.
No, and 60% of box office revenue can now be found in China. So by including an Asian main character, it automatically increases sales. It's the same reason why in Rogue One, even though it was supposed to be like this gritty war movie, they had ninjas, Force ninjas, who were all Chinese, because they wanted to make the money in the Chinese markets. Again, isn't movies
Yeah, that's
magical?
right. I do remember something about that.
And again, like, it's fine. Racial diversity is so important in Star Wars, but don't make it obvious. Please do it in a way that happens naturally.
That's one more thing I have problem with Star Wars. Not just Star Wars, but like pretty much every movie that's been made since the year 2000. Politics are getting so involved in it. It's just I can't. Some of them are unbearable.
No, and this
that's
isn't
a
even
discussion for
politics.
today.
Again, this isn't even politics. This is economics. Like, again, this goes back to the whole idea, like, oh yeah, we're finally getting representation. It's great that you are getting representation, but the reason why they're including these characters isn't because they want to give you representation. It's because they want to get as many demographics into the theaters as possible. It's not a matter of like like social like mindfulness. It's economics.
Yeah, but you know the worst part
You're
about
being
that,
had. Everyone's being had. They're being scammed, and they don't even realize it.
You know what's the worst part of that, though, Brendan? You know this movie made significantly less than The Force Awakens.
Wait, what?
The Last Jedi didn't make as much as they wanted it to.
Yeah, no, I'm sure it didn't, because it fucking sucked. Well, I don't think that the reason why like Star Wars isn't doing well is because like they're intentionally planning out the demographics and like making sure that each person gets representation. I'm fine with that. Like if like I think the more representation that they have, the better. Is because again, it like the representation is a little lopsided, especially in Hollywood. The problem is that the characters that you do include, they need to be doing something important. Like
Right.
that purple-haired lady. This is a testament to how little this character mattered to me. I call her the purple-haired lady. I cannot tell you a single name of any of these new characters.
I watched this movie at 7:00 tonight, and I do not know her name. So I agree.
I don't know the name of any of these new characters. None of them had any impact on me whatsoever. Because I don't care. I don't care about these fucking people. But anyway, why is her hair purple? If she is supposed to be this stoic professional person, why does she have purple hair?
You know what's the worst part? Is that
like this is just simple costume design. This is such simple costume.
You guys know who? You guys remember Jurassic Park?
Yeah, of course.
You know
it's her. Yeah.
Yeah. All right,
I don't care.
No.
But no. But what I was gonna say was that, like, again, like her character, for instance, not only does it not make any sense, but it's absolutely meaningless because she's just carrying over the same plan that Carrie Fisher would have had she not passed out, and then she wakes up and does the same exact thing that purple-haired lady was going to do anyway. And not only that, but like most of the conflict in the movie is caused because like Poe, is that it? Poe is convinced, because Poe is convinced that she's just going to lead everybody to death, because she's like, oh no, we're just going to stay on the course forever until we run out of gas and we get shot. But then it's revealed that the whole time she was planning an escape. But why didn't she just tell him? Like, if there's so much conflict the entire plot of the movie is made out of the fact that they're convinced that they're all going to die. The entire plot. Like, everything happens because they are so convinced that she's going to lead them into death. Why didn't she just say, like, oh, no, we're just gonna hold on, and then we're gonna leave on an escape capsule?
Yeah,
roll credits. Nothing that the characters do matters, because despite everything they do, they fail at everything they do. Nothing they do matters. And then they just go through with the plans they had in the beginning. So why didn't she just fucking say the plan? The plot has no meaning whatsoever. Everything that happens, and I get it that Yoda said, like, oh, no, we learn the most from failure. But had they succeeded, had they failed, the same shit would have happened. So they're not learning anything, really. There's no moral lesson being learned whatsoever. So the movie makes no sense.
I think it's also...
And I'm done talking about it.
And I think one point you just made that made me think, too, is in Empire Strikes Back, I think, also tackled the theme of failure perfectly, which is why a lot of people like it so much. But I think also another thing we need to realize is a lot of all the big decisions, I just fully realize this now, all the big decisions, whether it's Holdo ramming the ship or it's Luke standing out in front of everyone, with the exception, the only decision that was in the main character's hands, the only big decision that was made in the character's hands was that I could think of at least, was a stupid decision with Rose and Finn. Like, every big decision that these characters have to make for the new characters is made for them by someone like Luke or Holdo or Kylo Ren. So everyone else makes the decisions for them. So it's like you never feel the weight of the decisions. Like Empire Strikes Back, you know the scene where Luke goes off to save his friends, and then knowing he's going to fail, but ignorantly believing that he could do something. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Well, in this one, it's almost like, imagine if instead of Yoda and Obi-Wan advising him, they just take it over. It's like, no, Luke, we'll make this decision for you. The whole dramatic weight is that these people make their decisions and they suffer the consequences. They didn't really make their own decisions for the most part, I feel like.
No, that is a big problem. Like everybody, because like one of this is like screenwriting again. Like this is why I'm so baffled by the movie. This is screenwriting 101. Like if in order to make your story work and in order to have all your characters involved, you just give them something to do. Like, oh hey, get this code breaker for us because we got to do the thing. If you're just doing it for the sake of giving them something to do, then it's probably not a necessary part of the story. That's the whole movie. It's just everybody has something to do. And then like nothing has any meaning. It's like, oh, what should Finn do now? Well, let's have Captain Phasma come back, and then he fights her, and then she dies, and then they immediately go back to the thing that they were doing without any like dwelling on what just happened. All of the scenes are meaningless. I don't know why they had to bring Captain Phasma back. And then it's like, oh, BB-8's on the ATST. He's gonna drive it. Isn't that cute? Okay, like yeah, whatever. I guess this is Star Wars now.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. And I wanted to bring up a quote from Rogue One. I didn't mention it quite yet, but it was when we were talking about how this movie gets a lot of things right, but because it contradicts some of this stuff that it doesn't quite get there. There's a quote from Rogue One, Eden. I'm sure as a fan of Star Wars memes, I'm sure you'll appreciate this one. There's the quote from Rogue One from the beginning where he goes, "We were on the verge of greatness. We were so close." You know what I'm talking about?
I do. Continue.
Well, there's that whole scene.
Yeah, of course.
Right, where, and I think that kind of summarizes, I think The Last Jedi overall had a whole lot of good ideas. I do. I think there are some good things. I think Mark Hamill does a good performance. And personally, I do think that the fight on Crate, I like the way that this film takes a long time, personally, to wrap up. I do.
Fuck you.
I think I like
Fuck you and your avant-garde, artsy, long, drawn-out piece of shit movie.
At first, when I was in the theater, I was like, come on. But then I was kind of like, okay, that worked. I like the last fight on Crate, minus the whole Rose and Finn really, really stupid moment that we've talked about a million times. I think as soon as Luke stepped out, a lot of people didn't notice. I feel like I'm the only one that noticed right away something was off about him because I was like, why?
Yeah, because he took out the blue lightsaber and the blue lightsaber was destroyed, and then all of his hair was perfect. And how did he get off the planet? Because it was established that he couldn't get off the planet.
Yeah, and he had brown hair instead of like gray hair.
But who cares? Like, who gives a shit? Like,
no. So I knew something was up. And then when they fired, I didn't feel that his death was handled all that badly. In all honesty, I didn't. I
think it was handled terribly. Again, this is where the pacing comes in. He died in the wrong movie.
I think it was like Rian Johnson was like, oh, but I have to take his death before someone else does. Someone else might fuck it up. I'll do it.
He fucked it up. So congratulations, Rian Johnson. You're a fucking schmuck.
All right. Well.
No. I'm sure it's because Mark Hamill did not want to be included in any more movies because he has made it abundantly clear that he hates this franchise.
No, that was
again, aren't movies magical? But yeah, no. He and the whole his whole sacrifice was literally because they needed a little more time to escape from the mines. So he did all of that and he died because they needed 5 more minutes.
Yeah, but
great fucking job. No. Yeah, I'm really on the edge of my seat. They need a few more minutes.
That's like when I need 5 more minutes to get to class, but my teacher's on.
Yeah, he stalled. he stalled. Like his whole sacrifice was based on stalling.
I think
The again, it was the most important character's death, and and they wrote the script before Carrie Fisher died. Like, oh my god, did they bet on making the wrong character survive? Holy shit! Because she can't be in the next movie, so it's like, yeah, like,
and they're
fuck
bringing
that
Lando
then.
back, and Lando's gonna be like, "Hey, where is everyone?" It's like
What?
Lando's coming back, and he's gonna come back and be like, "Hey, where is everyone? Are you guys here?" And everyone's dead.
Again, I don't like. I didn't even want to watch like this new movie. I only did it because you mentioned that there would be a podcast. And yeah, no, I got nothing from this movie. I hated it. It was awful, and that's it. Can we be done? Is this the end of the podcast?
All right.
No.
Brendan's clearly wrapped up.
I think we can all agree that The Last Jedi is terrible.
All right. I'd still I still think there are some good things about this movie.
No, there isn't. That's the thing. Like nothing. Nothing happens of any importance whatsoever.
Let's talk about the visuals, Brendan, as a film.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's talk about the visuals. Let's talk about the assembly line CGI production that this movie was made with. Yeah, no. I was edge of my seat. Yeah.
I liked a lot of the practical effects they used. They did a lot of practical.
Oh my god, why is everybody jerking off practical effects in Star Wars? The reason why the prequels weren't good was not because of the abundance of green screens. It was because the script was bad.
Yeah,
just because the effects were practical does not mean that the movie is automatically good.
No,
some of the greatest movie moments were made with CGI.
Some of the best were made with yeah, but the reason why a lot of the digital effects don't hold up in the prequels is because they don't look good. But practical effects moments in the original trilogy, I feel, hold up really well.
No, they do. It's just that, okay, when we're talking about a movie with a budget of hundreds of millions of dollars, I think the fact that the production is believable and good is really just it's not even worth discussing, because like obviously the effects have to be good. Like, this is Star Wars. And that being said, there really wasn't any like set pieces that really put me on the edge of my seat. Like, quite frankly, it's like everything felt very by the books. Like, it was pretty uninspired, to be honest.
See, I felt that great at the this is why I do kind of like the last battle. I felt that where they have the red sand underneath the salt. I thought that looked very nice visually. I thought that was a really nice looking visual.
Vaughn, I think it's a testament to how boring this movie is when the main takeaway is, wasn't it cool about how there was red sand under the salt? Okay, like that's great. Okay, like, yeah, it was a white planet, and red kicked up when you flew something over it. I get it. Red on white is aesthetically pleasing. There was no thematic importance to the fact that there was red on white. You see, like, for instance, Hoth was like, it was cold, it was desolate. It was a perfect encapsulation of what was happening to the rebellion at that time. They really were in this very dark, very cold place. So it was a reflection of what was happening in the story. Red sand under salt does nothing. Okay, like, that's what people forget. Like, everything that all of the effects that did happen in the original trilogy contributed to the story. Like Tatooine, it was a desert because Luke really was in the middle of nowhere. He had no purpose, and he was in the desert because of that. But okay, all right, but yeah, it's like the set pieces have become so overblown that it's like, oh, here's a cool thing that we've never done before. Red sand under salt. I don't care. I don't care anymore. This is the 10th movie. I am fucking done.
That's a good point.
All right, that's all right. So I guess I'm trying to hold on. I still think there are some things I think.
Fuck you. Have I not made my point clear that it's creatively bankrupt? Like, there's no saving the series. Star Wars was never meant to be a cinematic universe. Okay, it was such a simple story. It is so oversaturated. I am tired of seeing Star Wars. Like, eventually, doesn't the magic just go away for you? Like, doesn't it stop being special around the 11th fucking movie?
Sorry, hold on. Jesus Christ.
Like, can't we just like our society has such a hard time with just letting things die. Like, just because we're not making sequels to something does not mean that it doesn't have its own artistic integrity. Sometimes the fact that you don't make sequels out of it is because you have to respect the fact that it was already done. It was already proven. It was artistically fulfilled.
No, I get that. I get that. I understand that.
No, I don't think you do, because you keep on insisting that they're gonna make another good movie. There is no semblance. There is no good Star Wars movie that's gonna come down the pipe, because Star Wars does not have any more story left in it. You cannot make a Ferris Bueller cinematic universe. You cannot make a Back to the Future cinematic universe. This is a simple story with a cool premise that's built off of the characters and how they interact and where they go. Once that's over, the movie is over.
Okay, I think it's a bit different from Ferris Bueller. I think it's a bit different.
No, I don't think it is, because this is like where you're putting on your Star Wars lenses. Despite all the hype that has happened with Star Wars, and despite the fact that it's become such a mainstay of popular culture, it is just a movie with a story and 3 acts and structure. Until we look at it as just that, we will never see a good Star Wars movie, because you keep on trying to make a Star Wars movie instead of making a good movie. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
Yeah, I get it.
So, okay, all right. So when I say there's no difference between this and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, I mean it. They are 2 movies. That's it. That's all they will ever be.
All right, let's let Aiden. Aiden was going to say something. He hasn't talked in a while.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you. I know it is, like, that's what they're focusing on now, making Star Wars movies. They're not focused on making them good. They just want to make them Star Wars. And that's definitely a problem. That's probably the biggest problem out of any, new age Star Wars movie. But that being said, I don't think that is to say that, Star Wars shouldn't have its own cinematic universe. I mean, we talked about this with Dan earlier. You have the side stories, all right? You have the Star Wars, like the Clone Wars TV show. You have like this story, like Vaughn, you talked about that book you had, and there's all this stuff, and there's all this expanded stuff. It's not necessary. You don't have to read it to understand the movie. But I don't think that these movies being bad, like The Last Jedi and etc., are cause to say, Star Wars shouldn't have its own universe. Because I think that a lot of the magic that is Star Wars that spawned off the first 3 movies, especially, was sort of brought in.
Yeah.
Into this universe, it created this whole sort of culture, this whole area. I think that's a great thing. But that being said, these new movies, I do believe, are ruining this sort of thing that was built up around these 6 movies, even the prequels included.
Yeah, I think that there's nothing wrong with broadening the horizons. That being said, Brendan, I think you brought up a lot of really good points to think about. My whole point was basically I don't think everything is bad. I think
fuck you.
Fuck you. So that being said, I totally agree with a ton of your points. In fact, I think there is a lot of stuff that isn't being said in these films. I think there's a lot of it's making me question, do I want more Star Wars films after this? And the honest answer is I don't really think so, especially not annual releases. I think that's absurd. I think after this trilogy, we need to think, do we really want this? And I think it's a point of, do we? I don't know.
It's all about the money.
I think that
they will make money because people will see Star Wars movies.
I think that, I agree that the true ending should have been Return of the Jedi. If you wanted to add more, go ahead and add an expanded universe and whatever. I think that whatever is going to end after The Last Jedi is not going to feel as solid of an ending as Return of the Jedi. Not Episode 9, I don't think will ever feel as perfect as when Luke, again, burns Darth Vader and you have that cathartic moment at the end. I don't think I can compare to that.
Yeah, I agree, because again, it's ran its course, and it's people hold Star Wars in way too high of a regard. It's because what you have to understand is that A New Hope was made by a man, a very disillusioned, a very avant-garde director who never really had a hit film up to that point, who was in way over his head, who made a very bad movie. When they screened it, it was borderline nonsensical. It was saved in editing by a lot of more people, a lot more talented than him. And then after that, he was given so much help. He did not direct the next movie, which was obviously the best movie, Empire Strikes Back. And then with Return of the Jedi, even then, even in the original trilogy, you got such a sense that the series was starting to run its course. It was starting to lose that magic because it did not have as many hard-hitting moments as the other films. It was sort of going by the numbers up until the ending. It did pick up by the end, but it was never a series of masterpieces. It was a very good time. It was a great movie about a very simple clash between good and evil, in which good overcame evil, which luckily had a lot more creative people behind it. Star Wars now is essentially a bunch of studio bigwigs trying to recapture this, what is essentially lightning in a bottle. It's a miracle that those three first films worked out the way they did, and now there's such this polish over it, like such an ignorance going on behind it, because and now every time they announce a movie, they have to fill a whole auditorium with a bunch of cheering fans, and they have to bring all these people out and assure you, no, this is great, as if it's a political rally. Look at our candidate; he can do no wrong. Here we go. He is going to solve all of your problems. And then they show them the trailer. Everybody has to love the movie before it even fucking comes out. And then once the movie does come out and they forget about it, but it doesn't matter because they made all their money and they're going to make another one. And then the DVD comes out and you watch all of the commentary, and you can everybody seems like a hostage because everybody has to say oh, it was such a blessing to work on this amazing project. I'm so grateful for the experience I had. I'm so glad I was able to be part of something so big. But it's just a fucking movie. But what happens is when there's so much money invested in it, you can't treat it like a movie. It has to be this big cultural phenomenon that happens every single year now. And eventually, my prediction is, especially with Solo and everything, people will catch on. And I'm hoping that they will catch on sooner than later, because we don't need another Star Wars movie. What we need is another movie that captures our hearts and captures our imagination like Star Wars.
I can agree.
But Star Wars Episode 10 will not be the one to do that. It just won't be. You have to understand when something has ran its course. It's creatively bankrupt. Let it die.
I think with the release of Solo, we see that people are catching on. I mean, it tanked in the box office. It's this big boycott. Nobody wants to see these movies anymore. Mind you. Yeah, no, I think The Last Jedi really woke the especially fans, and be like, why do I care? I mean, I've seen the first 6 movies. That's the story. That's it. I don't care.
Yeah.
And I think one thing I will disagree with you on is when you say the original trilogy aren't masterpieces.
They aren't. Watch them again.
I have watched them. I think that not every movie has to be like The Shawshank Redemption to be considered. The Shawshank Redemption, I think, and Star Wars are 2 different movies, but I think they're both masterpieces in their own ways.
Nothing's perfect, but
I think Star Wars is. I would still call it, but regardless, I think we can agree they're great movies and that they were the best of them, and that what we have now is a state of Star Wars that isn't very happy. Now, I wanted to pull up, show a poll that I did on my Instagram, which you can follow, Vaughn Coleman.
Did you just shout yourself out?
Yes, on my own podcast, yeah. No, but so I did this poll. I'm not sure if you guys voted on it. Originally, I did a poll, are you okay with the current state of Star Wars? Then I actually forgot to save the results, so I recorded the poll again. The results were actually pretty similar. My cousin, the second time I did the poll, which you'll see on the screen now, I'll display it. One of my cousins accidentally voted yes instead of no. But regardless of that, and he was, by the way, someone who DM'd me saying Kathleen Kennedy needs to go. So this is someone who enthusiastically said no. Here's what the poll results were. And again, not everyone who follows me is a huge Star Wars fan. But still, 62% of the people that voted said no. And that doesn't even include my cousin who was part of the 38 that voted yes, but he voted yes on accident. So that number should even be higher no. So people are definitely not okay with the current state of Disney Star Wars. And I have some people who didn't vote. One person messaged me saying, I don't know, it's not a yes or no answer for me. I'm a bit off-put. And look what the cat dragged in. So anyway, yes, so the majority of people don't seem to be okay with the current state of Star Wars. Dan, you missed the entire Last Jedi discussion. Give us quick thoughts.
I'm not doing this conversation again.
No, I know. I'm just giving Dan. Dan, give your
you
quick
guys,
thoughts.
come on, catch me up. What did I miss?
We had a whole Last Jedi, I think.
No, I want you to repeat everything.
No.
Okay.
At speed.
All right. How about closing thoughts? Just closing thoughts.
First, Dan, give your brief thoughts on The Last Jedi, then closing thoughts.
Trash. Thank you.
There we go. That's all we need to say right there.
Dan and I saw it together. Dan actually liked it when we walked out. We all had problems. Oh, I forgot to mention Admiral Akbar died.
Oh, that was just ridiculous.
Replace that
No,
Holdo.
you know what hold on. You know what my
died.
problem with that was? You know who my problem with Admiral Akbar's death was? I didn't know he died until they told me he was dead.
Yeah, agreed.
Killed off screen.
No, Dan and I looked at each other in the theater after they go, oh, Admiral Akbar died. We were like, wait, what?
No, I was literally sitting there next to Tomas. I was like, what do you mean? When did this happen?
And then I rewatched the scene. He's just casually walking around the background, not even in focus. The focus is on Carrie Fisher, who, by the way, is the only one in the room that doesn't die. He dies not even in focus. Anyway, that was a small detail.
That actually wasn't Admiral Akbar. That was just like another fish.
Yeah, no. That actually wasn't Admiral Akbar. That was just another.
No,
another
he wasn't on
species.
screen. He wasn't on screen.
Admiral Akbar.
Okay, I actually don't care. I think closing thoughts.
Oh, no, real quick, Brent. So, Dan did give his closing thought. It was trash. Or never mind, that was.
I think it's really interesting how me and Brendan both hate the movies, but for completely different reasons.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I do agree. It's fascinating.
All right. So it seems to me like there's a lot to hate. There's a lot to talk about. So yeah, we'll give our closing thoughts. Aiden, we'll start with you.
All right. Well, when I first saw the trailer for Force Awakens, I was like, "Ooh, more Star Wars." But now that I've talked about it with you guys, I've seen the movies at least twice. I mean, I gotta agree with Brendan here. I mean, I don't think they're worth it. I think that Star Wars should have just stopped in a long time ago.
All right, Brendan.
I've actually been recording most of this podcast while just taking a walk around town at night, and I have smelled marijuana on like 3 different occasions just walking around my small little neighborhood. And one thing it reminded me of is that one thing that it made me think of is that people who are happy don't do drugs because they're happy. They don't need it. Drugs are an escape. And what this discussion made me realize is that if The Last Jedi really does want to make right and Disney and Star Wars wants to do right by everyone, they should apologize to everyone who is trying to get over drugs like alcohol and weed and pills, because what The Last Jedi and most of these Star Wars movies makes people want to do is drugs. Because it makes them so depressed that they feel like they need to escape. Because Star Wars used to be an escape from the world around them. But now, in this generation, Star Wars is the world around them. They see it in every single toy store. They see it in their fucking Denny's commercials. They see it on TV. There is no escape. So now they need to take drugs to get away from Star Wars. And I think that is a terrible thing. And I think Star Wars and Disney should apologize to all of the recovering addicts out there for the relapses.
Is that what you tell yourself?
It is.
Wait, what's
because it is such a terrible thing. Like, after having this conversation, I don't want to be sober ever again. Because if there's one thing that Star Wars proved to me, it's that if the world does somehow discover a little piece of magic, it will exploit it for millions of dollars.
Oh my god, this is the best.
And if anyone would like, and my last thing, I just want to give a shout out to a set of a film review channel called Red Letter Media, which I happen to borrow a lot of their points around this discussion because they happen to have a very unique perspective on Star Wars and its effect on cinematic society, and that's really all I have to say.
All right. Well, yeah, I watched their prequel videos. And if you guys ever want to come on and talk about something else, that'll be great. Dan, we'll finish off with you. Dan dropped out for a while. He's back here just in time to give his final thoughts. Let's hear him.
I believe I stated this already. Trash.
The Last Jedi. All right, so just all of them in general.
Oh, you want me to? Oh, all the movies? Oh, I have a prediction too.
Like a closing thought on the fate of Star Wars and Disney.
Trash.
Okay. On that note, let us know in the comments what you guys
money
think.
and time.
We're gonna definitely do some podcasts down the road. Do you guys have any? If you guys have any suggestions, let me know. Even you guys in the chat, you can let me know. Anyway, if anything you guys want to promote before we leave.
For those of you who don't know, I'd like you to follow it.
Wait, you have an account on what?
Twitter.
Okay.
At Doug Fucks Dogs.
Okay. I'll have that on the screen throughout the entire time. And Brendan?
I sell drugs. If you want, I work the corner by the Oceanic Library. It's on the corner of Ridge. Hit me up if you ever need OxyContin, meth, crack. I will be more than happy to sell you it. I'll give you a discount if you recently saw a Star Wars film because I can sympathize with your struggle. Can you please include that like that in my description?
I don't know if all right, Aiden, do you have anything?
I mean, I think I already said what I need to be said. It's bad.
No. I meant like to promote.
Oh, to promote myself? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. No, fuck that. I mean,
okay.
I literally
Cool.
just walk around all day.
Okay, cool. All right, so thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys for coming on. It's been a blast. I'd love to hear you guys talk, and I'd like to do this again sometime.
All right, go fuck yourself.
All right. Yeah, okay.
All right, bye.
See
All
you
right,
guys later.
fuck you.